Walaikum assalam, Sister Asma.
Okay, so the recording is up. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome to the addiction webinar. And the topic for today is the role of mental health in addiction recovery, an Islamic perspective. And the whole series is the spiritual journey to healing from addiction. There are many addiction healing methodologies out there in the world. But what we offer at Back to the Fitra is an Islamic perspective, at the same time, a unique, we bring in a psychological angle, which we call as the Fitra focused approach, the inside out paradigm, the different names for it, which is unique by itself. So it's one of its kind understanding. So so let's for the guest who is in the room, and the ones who are going to be listening in the recording, inshallah, the invitation is to sit back, relax. That's the first thing. And listen. Just listen. Because if you're here, there's a reason you're here. And Allah knows best. And there is a reason we all are here. And Allah knows best why we are all here. We don't know. So whoever we intend to be supporting, the one best way to support them is to listen. So Allah has made it very simple. When we are ready to listen, we hear what we are meant to be hearing. So that's the first loving invitation for everybody who's listening for the first time, is understanding, who intends to support someone who's going through a struggle, or who wants to support themselves who are going through a struggle. That's the first thing, is to listen. And everything else falls in place from that place. That's the first step. Yes, when we listen, the wisdom of Allah speaks to us. It's not about our words. So we are not here to teach you anything which you don't know. This understanding itself is something which is innate. It's an inbuilt approach. Allah has given us access to His wisdom, which speaks to us uniquely. We all have a sense of it, but most of us have lost in touch with it as we grow up. Around adults, we lose that. We lose touch with it, but we don't lose the wisdom, because we can't lose connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's not possible. So listening, what it does is it helps us drop out of our head and drop into that beautiful space where we are already connected with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I invite all of us to listen in a way as an act of ibadah, to just breathe and relax. So so anybody can jump in. Okay, so the role of mental health, like what I have already began to share about, I think one of the things which is key is when we speak about mental health, one of the things I have seen as someone who's been in the space for quite some time, before I came to this understanding, the inside out paradigm, and this Islamic perspective, I have known a lot of tools which is outside in, which is good in its own way. But our approach is unique because it is not outside in, it's inside out. Because healing comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Nobody can heal without His will. So the first step towards healing is knowing no problem can be solved without his will. So there comes this humility to surrender and ask for help. And he loves when we ask for help. And that's half the battle won. It's like plugging out of the batteries and plugging into the mains. You can't run out of battery anymore. It's just, it is that simple, but it's not easy in many cases because we are all trained to use our intellect, our ability to think so much that the main problem is what comes in the way is our own thinking, which is not based on truth, like all our thoughts, which comes in the way, which is untrue about us, untrue about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, untrue about our situations in life. So when we begin understanding that life doesn't work outside in, life works inside out, we are never feeling the situation. We are always feeling our thoughts about the situation, two different things, very, very different things. When we understand that, the situation is never difficult. People are never difficult. Our thoughts about a situation or thoughts about people can be. So that gives us the space to own our experience. That's the second step towards recovery, to own our experience. Like Sydney Banks said, like, this is a quote which has changed my life. Continues to. If only we learn not to be afraid of our own experience, this world will be a different place. It's got a lot of depth. This man, alhamdulillah, he knew how to listen to Allah's wisdom. So these words, I'm going to repeat those words again. If only we learn not to be afraid of our own experience, this world will be a different place. So one of the ways to interpret that, there are many ways to interpret that. One of the ways to interpret that, which seems very real to me, is we can't run away from our current experience. The experience is frightening or sad or, let's say, not okay. You don't have to run away from it. We don't need to fix it because it's coming from a thought and thoughts are shifting. So when we understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the choice to I don't know how to say this, but he's given us the choice to raise above our experience. So when we are not afraid of the experience, when we're able to feel the sadness or whatever the experience is, the feeling of it, we are able to see the gift of the experience because that's from Allah. And every situation is got a gift for us. So there begins a journey getting closer to Allah. So I want to pause here so that if anybody else wants to jump in here, feel free to do that. Because this is what has simplified my life to get closer to Allah, to raise above the experience and to see the gift in what's in store for me to see here. That gift, like for example, if whenever I work with people, one of the things I notice is there is a gift in every trial. There's a gift in every test. So there are only two reasons people come to us, each of us. They're dealing with a trial, they're dealing with a test of Allah, and they don't know about the gift. So I'm always curious about the trial, the way they are seeing the trial. And what is the gift in store for them? Because the moment they raise above the trial, as that's the love of Allah, because every trial is a love of Allah. So that we unpack the gift. When we begin seeing there's a gift, it changes the life forever. We don't play the small game anymore. The game becomes much bigger. And big is not the word, if you know what I mean. The game becomes a lot more meaningful. And if I think of stories of the prophets, they all had their trials. They all had issues. They all had if you look at what is mental health, let's call it, when we are not feeling okay, they all had situations which were super difficult. One after another, one after another, one after another. But their faith in Allah, they know how to turn to Allah. That helped them raise above their experience. They never gave up. They were ready to see what's their role, because we have a role. But it starts with raising above the experience, not being afraid of our experience. That requires an understanding. I'm going to pause here.
I could sit in your energy all day, Mudassir. Mashallah. Mashallah. But I do want to point out some, I guess, maybe some practical things in relation to addiction and mental health, and where we can sit sometimes. You know, it's probably not new to anybody, particularly if you have struggled with mental health yourself, or supported someone with mental health issues or addiction for that matter, because sometimes not all the time, but sometimes they can go hand in hand. But the biggest hurdle to overcome is removing the identity of yourself with the addiction, with the mental health issues, and being able to see through it. And this is where you were certainly talking about awareness and, of course, thought, and the understanding that our feelings and emotions are created by thought in the moment. That whether it's something, and of course this is happening unconsciously for much of the time, until you become aware of it. So, and that's what we're inviting people to do, and we're also, that's sort of the gist and the guts, for, as a gross sort of terminology of what we do, is becoming aware of that. And once you're aware of that, it doesn't have any power over us anymore, and it just sort of floats away. You know, we can, you know, and this is that sense of, you know, rising above it, or rising, you know, through it, or seeing through it. And the key point is, when we get that understanding that we're actually not controlled by these thoughts and feelings, that they are simply just chemical reactions that are happening. They're not us, and we don't need to identify with them. Therefore, we don't need to identify with the illness. We don't need to identify with the addiction. And this is where, particularly with addiction, this is, once we've gained that awareness, that we can then see beyond the craving, see beyond the negative thought patterns that actually drive us to keep seeking that. Well, initially with addiction, we're seeking pleasure, or we're seeking escape. So the escape is the pleasure. I mean, even the numbness is a pleasure, because it feels pleasurable to not have to think about what's the real world for a while. And then as it goes on, it gets harder and harder to find that same level of, again, lack of better word, pleasure, or that numbness. So we keep chasing something bigger. And then it also, and when we don't have it, the physical sensations and the negative thought patterns will amp up, and then we feel that we will need it even more. But what this understanding, or with the Fitra focus paradigm understanding, is, as of course, as you beautifully covered, Mudassir, in the sense of the role that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala plays, in that He is our source of resilience and healing, and He empowers us to be able to go through any struggle, whether it's mental health or addiction or both. And through His wisdom, we can be brought back to our innate mental well-being, potential for recovery, regardless of any state that we're in, or how embedded and deep that we are in. Yeah. So connecting and being able to, well, connecting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He's so much greater than us. And it becomes hopeful, and we can, and that's the source of transformation. And of course, and the more connected you are, the more aware you are of actually what's going on. You're aware of the thoughts, you're aware of the cravings, you're aware of all of these things that are driving your your mental health, or mental. I don't really like to say mental illness, because it's like we are, but that's the words, right? That's the words that are out there. We all have mental well-being, and we have it at our fingertips at any given moment. We just don't see it sometimes, because we get caught up in the fog, that can't see the forest for all the trees. We can't see the beauty of what's right in front of us, or what we've got at our fingertips, because we're so caught up in this pattern of thinking, or stories, or whatever. So yeah, I might pause also, actually, because if we've still got we've got anyone in the room here. I mean, we've got a few people that are very familiar with this understanding. I don't know if you can hear my kids. They're probably really loud, are they? No? Okay. Because they're really loud on this end. Yeah. If we just maybe just open the floor, and we'll just have a bit of a discussion around anyone who has maybe a personal experience with addiction, for one, or the role that
I
Yeah.
wanted to share,
Go
inshallah.
ahead, Romy. Yeah.
So I wanted to share the verse, and it connects with what you were saying. That Allah says, that Allah does not burden any soul with more than it can bear, and it sort of connects with that you were saying. When we believe that we can't bear something, we are going to go to these things to try to numb our pain, or to, and we are gonna probably choose certain things to be able to feel okay. But this verse, it does say to us that whatever Allah, test or whatever, we actually can't bear it. And when we think about it, it means that, everything that we've been through in the past, we were able to bear it. So we're not actually broken, or there is always that, that whatever happened to us in the past, we were, because that's what Allah says. And it also means that whatever we're going through now, it's not meant to break us. It's just a test. And whatever we're gonna be going through in the future as well, we are gonna be able to bear it. So when we reflect on this, that that we actually not broken, it gives us that hope and that trust as well, that whatever's happening to us, we can handle it.
Yeah, absolutely, Romy. I mean, I have a history of depression. And of course, feeling broken is a very familiar pattern to me. And even in the early days of this understanding, when I would hear someone actually say, that Allah doesn't burden you with more than you can bear, I went, well, he's taken me to the brink, you know what I mean? Like, that's what it felt like, and
Mhm.
and as time went on, yeah, I'm not so victimized by it. And now, like, with alhamdulillah, like, but in the early days it was just like, what are you talking about? You're crazy, like this. How, I can't bear any more than this. I can't bear any more of this. And there were times where, the thought of actually physically ending it myself, because I was really at the brink and thought that I couldn't bear it. But on reflection, I'm now saying, well, I could bear it, because, as time went on, and as, like, as each test was delivered to me, I wouldn't necessarily say they were successful, because it's never going to end. We're always tested. But it got easier, and I got to understand the bigger picture. Just as you said, that, we are tested and we're always being redirected. And that's where, with the love letters from Allah, when the program with, where it's love letters from Allah, and I love that. I love that. And I love thinking about any tests that I do have, where it is a redirection, like it's, perhaps I am going down a path unconsciously that Allah doesn't want me to go down, and so he's trying to bring me back. Or perhaps, upon reflection again, I've, not feeling as connected to him, like, my salah is a bit rushed, or, I'm not actually taking the time of worship, and not really thinking about my acts of worship either. And so I feel, this is my personal experience, that he will then place something in there to remind me I need to slow down. And often that is physical illness for me, body aches and pains and soreness and discomfort. It's different for everybody, obviously.
And I think, taking it back to thought as well is what we're thinking, We're thinking that we
Absolutely.
can't bear it. We're thinking that we can't take it anymore, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because someone actually said to me also that, you know, Allah tests the ones he loves the most. And I remember being in such victim mode at one point. I said, I wish he didn't love me so much.
yeah, I don't want to be loved that way, you know?
Yeah, I don't want to be loved that way, right? I mean, astaghfirullah. I mean, really,
Yeah, like,
I'm taking every moment of love from him wherever I can get, really. But yeah, it's, you know, I was really, really feeling under the pump and really feeling, you know, overwhelmed by what's going on. And then beautifully, you know, being able to talk to some of the mentors here, you know, with Back to the Future, or you know, or even Catherine herself. It doesn't take me long to come back and get sort of back on track and just have a little bit of a I'll have a little bit of a, you know, a little tanty, you know what I mean, like a tantrum, you know what I mean, because life is very hard right now, blah blah blah. Have a, you know, have a bit of a pity party, and then one of the mentors will beautifully bring me back to understanding that I got caught up. I got caught up in that moment of and I just lost sight of the bigger picture. Got caught up in my thinking, you know?
yes, subhanAllah,
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
There is a very famous, I don't know if it's let me say it's a line, which is truth. When we know better, we do better.
Yeah. It's actually more to it there, but I can't remember the whole thing. But yeah, that is the gist of it. When we know better, we do better. Absolutely.
And there is a lot of depth in that. So when people are battling with addiction, you can't do better because we are always doing what we are doing based on the understanding we have
In
about
that
life.
moment. Yeah, absolutely.
So if the behavior needs to change, it can't happen unless the understanding changes where the behavior comes from. What is the understanding? Thoughts we believe to be true. And this is unconscious. So that's why the power of thought, when we understand how it works, so that's the role we play at the Back to the Fitra, that we help people not just get over addiction. It's beyond that. We help people gain an understanding so that they can live from a place of truth, getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the source of everything. And from that place, it's like this. Like if I give you a very simple, this is how I see it. This is not a band-aid approach. Let me put it that way. This is not a band-aid approach. Because a band-aid doesn't heal. A band-aid just can only temporarily cover the place which is got a cut or a wound. So if somebody believes that, just give me a band-aid so that it doesn't get exposed to the external environment, so that I'm going to suffer less, that's not going to be causing, that's not going to cure. In fact, if you leave the band-aid there for a very long time, and the wound is going to go worse, it will cause septic, and it'll go worse. If you actually imagine, if you let it grow,
yes,
I'm going to the other extreme. If you let it grow, we may have to forego that hand. If you know the intensity of innocence there. Okay. So what we are talking about here, we are dealing with thought, which is very powerful. SubhanAllah, Allah has given us a gift of thought. It's like a tool. It's like water to the fish. fish doesn't see water. It's like that. We are always using thought. Okay, our experience comes from thought, and we can't see it because we are always in it.
Yeah.
We are so close to it that you can't see it. So that's why one of the unique things we offer is help people slow down to first see, like you brought in that, Sister Pamela, the addiction is not you. Your issue is not you. Your mental health challenge is not you. Your situational challenge is not you. We are none of that. Our suffering is not us. We are beyond all of that. Why? Very simple. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us, and Allah creates only masterpieces. Okay? Allah never creates anything defected. But we can think that way. But I lived one good part of my life thinking there's something terribly wrong with me. Seriously, all my life, everybody's better than me.
Yeah.
Everybody. Literally, everybody is better than me, but me. It's like Nauzubillah, I am like a third grade creation of Allah. But even when I say it now, I just feel yucky about it now. But I was living like that, cringing from inside. But nobody could say, by the way, nobody could say, I like when people look at me, they couldn't say that. This is something which was happening unconsciously. I didn't know that myself. I could only see it when I was able to move away a little bit to first see my thinking. We to first see our thinking because it's so close. We are like the fish in the water. We can't see this. So this requires an understanding for the behavior to change. Whatever is that behavior. And Allah has said this. I will never change a situation unless, help me with that, unless we change our heart.
Ourselves.
Ourselves.
Yeah.
So
never changes the circumstances unless we change ourselves. Yeah.
So
Something along those lines.
This is Allah saying, hey, you're okay. You want to suffer? Okay. I'm fine with that. You're exercising your choice to suffer, and Allah is okay with that. And of course, He sends love letters. He sends love letters. Okay? He sends so many love letters. If only we just pause for a moment and see, why is this situation like this right here, right now? That's all we offer to people, to see first, the courage to see what's going on. I'm going to bring in Sister Bilqisu. I know you've been wanting to come into this conversation. Jump in, sis.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
MashaAllah, very important nuggets shared. Subhanallah. And the good thing about this is it's holistic. What we share is holistic. So it's not going to just help you with addiction issues, but once you begin to notice your thoughts, once you begin to connect to your innate self, everything around you will just change. I don't know how it happens, by the grace of Allah, but it does. And it is also important, we've heard about experience. It's also important we pay attention to separating our circumstances and experience. A lot of times we take them as one.
Yeah.
The circumstance you are in doesn't make you who you are, as they've all said. However, when you separate it, you can be able to know that, okay, there's this quote that suffering, pain is inevitable, but suffering is a choice. So when we're able to separate the circumstance and how we experience it, we would have that ability to accept, okay, this is our circumstance. It is painful. It is affecting my life. I'm overwhelmed. I'm feeling helpless. However, Allah has given us that choice of being conscious and to be able to experience it in a better way that would help us as against experiencing it. Just like Mudassir said, if there's one thing, if we can not be afraid of our experience, then we'd be fine. So we can be able to choose how we experience things in a more enlightened way. And for us to really be able to do that is by seeking knowledge. It's very important to seek the knowledge of Allah. It is when we know His greatness that we can be able to have that total tawakkul, to submit to Him, because we know of His greatness. And He has told us about it in the Quran and the Sunnah. So most of the quotes or the Quran verses we would say, just like Sister Pamela was saying, during her experience, sometimes she wasn't feeling that she can bear it. But now in hindsight, she felt she could. She saw that she did. She even survived it. She's here with us, so she could bear it. When we say a lot of things, the layers of resistance would stop you from listening beyond those thoughts. So please accept it, be kind to yourself. Allah is sufficient for you. And remember, your circumstance is not the same as your experience. So you can experience things differently, inshallah. Give yourself that grace. You deserve it. You're Allah's creation.
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. Feel free to pop your questions in the chat or come off mute. If there's a question, I think we have one guest in the room. Feel free. You don't have to. By the way, you can.
Yeah.
If you want to, you can. Okay,
We've gone pretty deep into the understanding tonight, so just to sort of pull that back, and it starts with a conversation. That's just reaching out to someone and just starting with that conversation, that that you can sort of get a sense that you want it differently, you want to see change or something to change in your life. That's where it starts. And then of course, if you come into the addiction department with within us, which is easy to do. I can share the link, and we had Daniela in the room before, and she's our addiction department manager, and she's also our customer support person. So she's absolutely wonderful in helping people and supporting people to get the right help that they need. Because there are, a few ways of getting support and help with us. So having a discussion with her is the best start. I just wanted to also point out, Mudassir, when you were talking, I had a bit of a, I kind of went like this because it was a bit of a brain burst moment where I went, wow, yeah, you're so right in relation to the Band-Aid. And so what was actually coming to me was how, particularly with mental health, that the role of medicine or medications in there too, that I'm certainly an advocate that that's some medicines will they help in the interim, you know what I mean. You have the medicine, and then you also have the support running alongside each other, and that's what I was seeing just as you were talking, is the medication is the Band-Aid, because I liked that, how it's protecting you, and that's exactly what's happening, because I have a close family member at the moment dealing with some mental health things associated with a few other diseases, and they're really resisting the medication, but I can clearly see that it's going to be beneficial for them as that Band-Aid, as that innate healing is beautifully happening underneath. So underneath that band-aid, you know, like I just got that visual where, as you were talking, I think that's it. Like it was a missing piece for me. I think I couldn't quite grasp how to articulate that. And yeah, you know, because it's very easy to, or particularly if you have a history of addiction yourself, or caring for a loved one yourself, to want to resist any form of help in that area too. But I mean, the first port of call really is to, you know, to make sure that you've got a good, not only a good support plan, which Back to the Fitra can certainly provide, but all other areas. And in what Belkisi was saying, the holistic approach as well, being supported, because that's also what I needed. You know, I needed the you know, the medication help as I was healing as well, because it was probably the thing that was stopping me from going too deep, going too dark, you know. And then it, you know, beautifully, my need for that fell away as time went on too. So I just wanted to share that, because I think it was a really important point that you shared, Modessi. Maybe not in the way that I'm articulating it now, but it was really, really, really good. Yeah. So we've only probably got about 10 minutes left of the session. And I will just try and get that link in the background, and so I can put it in the chat for people if they do want it. But yes, feel free to, if there's any burning question that you have, you can put a message in the chat that goes directly to the host, which will be Mudasir, if you do want to ask a question, and we can do, you know, we can sort of bring it into conversation discreetly type thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things is key. Sorry, please complete, please.
Yeah, I'm pretty much complete. I'll just get this link and we'll pop it in the chat for people. Yeah.
So one of the things which about the support system, I want to add to that, as you're doing that. So what's our role if in case we are supporting someone? Yes, Back to the Fitra has a beautiful system, alhamdulillah. But as a family member, as a well-wisher, I think the two things key. One is to first understand that irrespective of what is the mental health issue someone is going through, whatever is the label, even the extremes of the label, here is the truth. Or whatever is the addiction, even the extremes of the addiction, here's the truth. They are okay. Period. Their fitra is unaffected. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created them, their well-being is bulletproof. That's an absolute truth. That's something which needs to be understood. They may be suffering on the outside because they're battling with their thoughts. But underneath, they're unaffected because Allah is protecting their fitra, the innate well-being. That's the first thing to understand. So when you are seeing them, don't see them as someone who is ill. Don't see them as someone who is broken. See them as a creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who is complete and whole. In spite of the suffering, in spite of the situation, they are complete and whole. That's the first thing. So when that happens, you're going to be a lot more loving towards them, the way you see them. You're going to be a lot more patient. You're going to be listening to them. You're not going to be seeing them as someone who is not okay. Because they are not able to see that for themselves. So listening is a great skill. Not listening to the words, beyond the words, just spending quality time with them, having that connection, and offering them support. That's a way of supporting them. Okay, taking them to a professional, like Back to the Fitra, okay, is a great way of supporting. And it's a journey. It's a journey. It's a journey of commitment. It's a journey of having a few conversations, being willing to see. Now, if I go back to my analogy, it's interesting what you heard, Sister Pamela. What I wanted to say, but it's interesting, like what we hear is different from what the words, right? That's the beauty of how it works. This is a classic example. What I wanted to say and through that example is the Band-Aid is helpful to some extent, but after a point of time, we'll have to rip off the Band-Aid for the holistic healing to happen. So this approach is about helping people see through the suffering. So we offer two things. We help them see the innate state. We help them connect with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when that happens, automatically they create a life which is pleasing to Allah in this dunya and akhirah. It's an absolute transformation, total transformation. With some people, it happens in few conversations. With some people, it happens over a period of time. How does that work? Only Allah knows. Only Allah knows. Okay, the means is us, the source is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But I can tell you one thing, it is simple. It is much simpler than the approach in the market. That's why it can be deceiving, because we understand Allah never gives us more than we can bear, because we're already whole. We just have to wake up and see it. So that's why it's simple. That's why it's not a life sentence. The situation is not a life sentence. The condition is not a life sentence. So my word for that, Sister Pamela, is condition, mental health condition. Illness is a word which is used in the market, and illness itself means like you're labeled for life. Okay, and we don't call someone he's a sick person because he's just come out of fever. We don't say he's a sick person. We just say he experienced it. That's what we say. Okay? But when it comes to mental health, we tell people he's depressed. No, he's not depressed. He's experiencing depression.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay? Two different things, because one is
Absolutely.
identity. I'm depressed. Another is I'm experiencing depression. Two different things. Like I'm experiencing cold right now. I'm not ridden with, I'm perennially sick. By the way, there was a time I used to believe I'm perennially sick because I used to fall sick as a child very often. So I really used to think that I'm a sick child. Was it helping? No, it wasn't helping. I used to fall sick very often because I started to believe that way.
Yeah.
The body and mind are connected, my dear brothers and sisters. So one causes another. The sickness is more often is not real, but because the body and mind are connected, some of the sicknesses, thought can create some of the sicknesses in the body. That's the power of thought.
Alhamdulillah. We might actually seize the opportunity to wrap it up there. We want to see it.
Yes.
It's a beautiful point to finish it on, I think. I've popped the link in the chat for anyone who does want to seek addiction support. There's also an opportunity to email or just go into the website, Back to the Fitra Mentoring Academy. If you just Google that, you'll get our website, and you will also get access to many of our sort of programs, and then you can register through there too, or you can just send an email through admin@backtothefitra.com also if you want to reach out. Jazakallah khair for everyone who has attended tonight. It was really, really wonderful. It's quite a deep session tonight because we did have a few mentors in the room, and there's a couple of the mentors that are sort of fresh out of running programs as well, and we've been in deep reflection within those programs. So yeah, it was beautiful, beautiful. And yeah,
We'll make it
Jazakallah
easy
khairan
for all of
Mudassir
us.
for taking charge of this one tonight. Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, so I wish everyone a good morning, afternoon, evening, whatever it is for you. It's evening here for me, so I'm about to, go and do some relaxing activities and off to bed. 'Cause, yeah, I've sort
Assalamu
of,
alaikum.
yeah. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone.